Hi, and welcome to Chain Reactions, a weekly live stream from Myosin.xyz, the leading global marketing network, and hosted by yours truly, Blake, and my co-host, Polina. Tune in each week as we jam on the latest happenings in the wild and wonderful world of Web3. We're live on unlonely.app every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Eastern, and release the pod every following week on Tuesdays. Now, let's talk Chain Reactions.
I tried to get like a master list, but no.
Yeah, we just got to shove together time. That's how it goes. All right, well, let's get into it, y'all. Welcome, everyone. This is Chain Reactions, the Myosin.xyz live stream and podcast, one time a week where we gather and talk to founders at the marketing and a bunch of awesome people from across the crypto sphere. Today, we have Kseniia, who you do so much, right? But I think a legendary CMO, fractional CMO. But yeah, we'd love to. Well, and then obviously I'm here with my co-host Paulina. So Paulina, if you want to say what's up.
Hi.
Let's go. But let's just dive straight into it. I guess, Kseniia, we'd love to have you kind of introduce yourself, tell us about your journey, and anyway, get straight into it. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for inviting, guys. First of all, excited with you. And thank you for a great intro. So my journey, I've been in marketing for 12 years. Initially, I think I had like a very kind of a patchy road to crypto marketing. And all of a sudden, everything started making sense when I joined crypto. Because before, I remember when I was interviewing, people were just like, what the hell? Like, why were you doing this and then that? And then crypto, it's like, oh, cool. It makes so much sense now. So I initially wanted to be an investment banker. That's why education was in banking and finance. Then I switched. I started doing studying marketing, and pretty much since then I started working as a marketer. But initially, completely unrelated to crypto. I was in luxury fashion. I had my business in healthcare. Then I switched to tech on the Web2 side. And my last role was at Skyscanner. So there I was responsible for growth marketing, but on the organic side, which was kind of odd because growth has to be measured and it was tricky to measure organic things. But at the same time, I think it was a great school for me in terms of like how to really crunch content, socials, partnerships, influencers, and anything that is more like owned platforms in nature, and how to actually like squeeze tangible results out of them. And then COVID started, obviously nobody was traveling. And I got into crypto very randomly. I got a message on LinkedIn from somebody who said that I was recommended by someone, they cannot say who. I still don't know who's that, which is the weirdest thing ever. But thanks to that person, I started diving into crypto because I said in full transparency that I didn't know anything, but I'm willing to learn. And the team was teaching me, I was reading a lot. And then I became interested in crypto, wanted to make like a move full time. And I saw that DeFi is the easiest move for me, exactly because I had educational background in finance. I understood how it works. I'm from Russia originally, so I know like governments, economics, and all these things. So I started working with Polkadex, and basically that was the beginning of my crypto CMO journey. Learned a lot, stayed with the team for quite some time, and then worked with Anchor, worked with Premier Finance, Orca, and from this year, I kind of went my own way and started working with different projects as a fractional CMO.
And actually, before we dive too deep into some of the other things, I'd love to hear kind of like how that initial engagement was when you were starting to work with Pokedex and whatnot. What was that like? I mean, when was that? It must have been a very interesting journey.
Yeah, and I think it's also like crypto now is more streamlined, right? Because this was like 4 years ago, even more than 4 years ago. And it was more like Wild West because I was hired after a 30 minutes call. And they literally asked me to
That's it?
Yeah, that's it. And they literally asked me to switch my camera off. I was like, oh no, they don't like me. Because in my books, it was like a bad scene. But it turned out just like this was comfortable for the team. And basically, hired, they were like, can you start today? Like, no, I need to prep. Can you start tomorrow? And we had a TGE in 1 month. And I think back then it was possible to do a TGE in a month. It was like you just needed to basically put all the pieces in place and just like sprinkle KOLs, backers, support, awareness, and everything, and you can roll with it. And it was super interesting, but I think like in retrospect, it was a lot of baptism by fire. Because a lot of things I was just like, what's a KOL? What's happening? Like, what are we doing?
Just get started immediately. I hired off a 30-minute call with no video. I remember those days. I remember when we first started, like even Myosin and Simon. Nobody's cameras on. Like, why are you forcing cameras on? Like, if you want to be a professional organization, you kind of need to see people's faces, right? It's crazy how much things have changed and haven't at the same time, back and forth.
Yeah, that's true. Because I think in terms of hiring, it's still like you kind of feel it straight away. I'm not a big fan of like multiple loops of interviews, even for people I'm hiring to my teams, because I think like giving a task straight away, I'm very much opposed to that. I think it's like doesn't make any sense. You either like someone or you don't.
Yeah, I think we've said it before in one of the podcasts that, I mean, I can tell almost immediately if it would be a good fit or not, like with a few questions already. And then it's just a matter of, some people are really good with words. That's the only tricky part, because after that, it can be tricky.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I wanted to dive a bit deeper into your role as a fractional CMO right now that you're on your own. What does that look like? Like what is your typical engagement looks like when you're starting to work on a project?
I would say it's probably the same as full-time CMO, just with the caveat that my projects know that I have other projects. And somehow I think it works really nicely, especially because now I have 3 B2B projects. They're all 3 in Solana ecosystem. So there's a lot of like sharing of contacts, which works well for me and works well for them. But in reality, it's kind of the same as you do as a CMO. You have to come on board, you have to figure out the narrative for them, help them to position themselves, help them to create the marketing funnel, get people on board, like set up the marketing team, cadences, and just help them. I would say it's probably less hand-holding that I'm trying to do versus like being the full-time CMO. But essentially, same thing.
Did you strategically choose Solana projects because they're within one ecosystem and allow you to, focus on this one ecosystem to grow well?
Actually, no, because for me, every project that I was starting before was on a different chain, or like multi-chain. So I've been on Polkadot, I've been on Arbitrum, on ETH, Anchor was on multiple chains. And then when Orca happened, I switched to Solana. And I think with Solana ecosystem, it's very interesting because it works a bit differently from other ecosystems. There are a lot of like cultish things, and there is a lot of support for people who got inside Solana eco. And funnily, like quite quickly, I became branded as Solana marketing expert. I was like, okay, let's roll with it. Let's do it.
I mean, I think that, once you, especially if you grow through partnerships and, KOLs a lot, and then you kind of have this rails built out for you, then it leads to more like a successful push of the new marketing messaging at the end of the day that you developed for the brand.
Exactly.
So I want to simulate a bit like the engagement that happens when you join the project, because you said it like very quickly and broadly. You need to figure out the messaging, the things, and all the rest of it. How do you develop the initial strategy? Because I mean, marketers listen to our podcast, founders listen to our podcast, and to kind of level set of where it all starts. And everyone else, like everyone has their own ways, their own point A and point B. I wonder what yours looks like.
Yeah, for sure. So for me, it's really important to understand what they're doing in and out, because if I don't understand, I cannot explain it. And I think essentially what we're doing in marketing, especially in crypto, we're humanizing all the communications, because we work with products that like sometimes funnily, even people from my teams are saying like it took them 3 months to figure out what the project is doing while they were already working there. And they were.
It's a good sign. Good sign.
Yeah, because sometimes, especially for B2B products, like consumer things, at least you can test it, and at least you can understand what is going to be the end result. And I think a lot of things, even like I'm working with Switchboard now. So Switchboard is building an decentralized Oracle. And for me at first, I'm like, I don't know what's a decentralized Oracle. I don't know what's the difference. So I have to make a deeper dive into that. And actually, I realized that the audience doesn't understand the difference as well, though this is like one of the unique selling points of the project. So we have to tweak everything in a way that it clicks for them straight away. Like, what exactly is it? Like, how is it run? So when I'm starting, I'm usually asking a lot of questions. And I think like a lot of annoying questions that founders sometimes are just like, why is she doing that? Like, why do you need it? Everyone understands it. But I think it's extremely important to tackle all the sides. Like I usually start from what was their regional market problem that they saw. How is it addressed now? Who are the competitors? Or let's say, we all know that founders love to say that they have no competitors. Probably like 90% of projects, they're like zero competition.
Yeah, it's crazy. There are all these unicorns and nobody has any competitors. So it's just,
Yeah.
yeah.
I usually always just ask, who are your indirect competitors that might have some features but don't have the same, combo of things that you have?
We're totally unique. Nobody has built this L2 before. Nobody, that's how it goes.
Yeah, exactly. Like, indeed, they all have unique things, but then if they don't have direct competitors who are doing 100% the same thing, because if you have somebody who does 100% same, it means you just forked somebody's protocol, which is probably not the best thing to do to scale. But at the same time, you always have indirect competitors, somebody who does like the part of your solution, let's say. Then I'm asking about the vision, like how the world is going to look like when your product succeeds. Like what are going to be, how's going to be the life of your customers. If it's B2B, I think it's always interesting because it's not just the life of your direct customer, which is another project or company, but it's also like how your solution is going to affect their end users, which I think is also important to talk through in your marketing comms. And then I dive deeper into the product, into the tokenomics, team, backers, like all the credentials. So anything to figure out like, okay, we've built the foundation, we've built our content engine. How can we scale it? What capacity do we have inside the team? What network do we have? And like basically, what free resources can we use to just boost the brand awareness? And then from that, so that's the first part. We set the foundations. Then I'm trying to centralize a lot of stuff. I like using Notion versus Google Docs or anything else. Just Google Docs give me anxiety. I keep losing stuff.
I feel you.
Yeah,
That's the way to go.
I honestly, I never thought that there is any alternative to Notion. But then the more I work with different teams, the more often I hear that, let's use Google Docs. Just like, no, please don't do that to me.
Well,
Or Google
something
Sheets.
we do. Yeah, something we do sometimes internally is like if people really insist on using Google Docs, they okay, take the Google Doc link and put it in the notes. So like, it's like that's one way of doing it.
Yeah, that's the funniest thing. That's actually the compromise we found with one of my teams because they are diehard Google Docs and I'm diehard Notion. So now like all my documents are on Notion directly and all theirs are an embed of Google Docs on Notion.
Oh my god,
Works for all of us.
Frankenstein.
Yeah.
works.
Yeah, exactly. But I try to centralize all the information because I think up until a certain point, when you work like directly with founders or when you have somewhat of a tiny team, it works because you are always in direct communications. You don't need to document that much. But as soon as you are adding people to the team, and with marketing, we always have content writers, we always have social media managers, communities, some third parties like agencies or media influencers, anyone else we work with. So it's very handy if you can just send a couple of links and everything is going to be sorted. Everyone is going to be on the same page. And the next step is actually hiring people to the team, onboarding them, setting like channel strategies and overseeing the execution process.
Oh, so that's interesting because I was going to ask, when we talk to clients sometimes, I think they ask, I've noticed there's some like hesitancy about fractional CMOs in general because they're kind of like, especially the early stage teams, I think they really there's like trauma basically, right? Because I think a lot of early stage teams really just want someone who can like execute, execute, execute. Even though obviously, there should be a strategic thing in place. It's like depending on how sophisticated the founder is, like sometimes they just don't care about that, and it's so hard. But it's interesting here that like you actually are part of your scope. I think is like bringing on full-time talent. That's different. It's been interesting. But actually, building on that, like how have you found that reception when people say like I do have CMO stuff or fractional CMO stuff? What have you heard those concerns? And I guess the question is like, how do you address them? If so,
Yeah, I did because also majority of my projects are prepping for the TGE at point like let's say in 3 months after the beginning of our engagement or a bit later in the journey.
yeah.
And I heard initially that they wanted somebody who's full time, but I think it's tricky with marketing because most founders are developers, right? So for them, it's a completely different work process. So you can be the number of hours you put into coding directly are correlated with the result you get. With marketing, let's say sometimes like I can have days when I have zero work because I'm waiting. I have some blockers from the team. I need them to review something. I'm waiting for the answer or something of the sort. And then I have days when it's just like nonstop work and communications. So I was thinking to somehow like quantify the number of hours I'm working. And we had these conversations with founders I work now. They were like, will you work 3 hours per day or 4 hours? Which essentially means that if they didn't get into this window, I will respond to them the next day, which doesn't make any sense. So I think it's just like, it's a beautiful mess, but it somehow works.
I like that.
I wanted to ask about the switchboard since you mentioned that because it's the thing that you're working with now. You said that they're B2B platform, they're a B2B oriented business. Yet I know, based on your background and organic marketing, all of that, you probably focus a lot on content, right? On X as the primary driver. So looking on the feed, it's a lot of like retail oriented vibe sort of posts and stuff. So I was curious to, because it's a B2B solution and because we had to ask so many questions to like even figure out what is going on here. What is your thought process of applying, the content strategy that is in place right now to that business?
Yeah, so we did, I think, quite a risky move with them because we did a rebrand and we decided to go more of a degen way because the team is it's one of my favorite teams. They're super fun and they love those risky things. Sometimes they're suggesting things that I was like, I would never suggest that because I thought it's too much, but they're like, yeah, let's try it. Let's go for it. They have a great product. They have a good pipeline of clients that they're already integrated with or people they're trying to integrate with. And the two chains that they're most active on are Solana, and also they're very close with Monad. So both communities are like vibey, a lot of like colors happening there, a lot of degen stuff, memes are the culture and so on. So we decided to tap into that. And also we're competing against Chainlink, Redstones, against Pith. So projects that are more like, I think they all have great brand and they have great marketing strategy, but it's more like monolithic compared to what Switchboard is offering. And actually our design mimics the whole like process of working with a team because it's very easy. The onboarding is like literally a couple of clicks. The fact that the Oracle is permissionless, you don't even have to reach out to the team. And it's one of the unique selling points is that it's super fast. So we had this mascot that was developed by the community and community named it Mr. Enclave. So we just decided to take something that wasn't the community to put a spin on it. And to be honest, I was even posting recently the metrics that we got. So since we rebranded and we went like very heavily on the content as well, because we're mixing product content with like all this fun stuff, with all the memes that we brand in our identity. We had a crazy uptick in metrics. Just like people are creating art based on it, people are sharing, retweeting, like there's a lot of engagement happening. So I think we tapped into something that was good.
Would you say that, yeah, would you say that there was already, an active enough community that just helped you carry that over? Sort of, they needed this little pinch to help propel the message, or was it, the introduction like a catalyst to the new community?
That's a good question, because I think probably both. So when we started working with Switchboard, they were not new. Like the team is building for 3 years, and their main goal is to prepare to their milestone events. So they want to.
Wait, real quick. I know I don't think I missed this, but I just realized for some of our listeners who may not be aware, do we describe exactly what Switchboard is? Did I miss that?
Maybe.
We said it's a B2B solution for
Yes, I love
yeah.
that. I just want to make sure.
Permissionless Oracle.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I mean, yeah.
The permissionless Oracle.
Yeah. All right. We'll leave it at that. Okay. Just want to make sure. Okay.
Yeah. So they had a community, and they have a great community lead that was really fostering it. But I think what they were missing is like a very clear narrative, because the product is amazing, the team is amazing, and they had like all the pieces of the puzzle in place. But let's say when I read the docs for the first time, I was kind of puzzled. Like, why would I choose you? And how does it work exactly? Like, what is a permissionless Oracle? Why does the speed of the price feeds matter so much? And we were really like crunching with the whole team. First of all, what is unique about them, and how to tweak it into marketing that really clicks with people. And I think visuals are really helping in this sense, because especially I know that a lot of founders are super opposed to mascot, to some sort of dignity, especially in B2B. But honestly, I think in crypto it works, even for like serious B2B projects.
And I think what's interesting is it's really like when they use Zach, right? Like it's about taking. It's like anything else. When someone tells you like do a competitive audit, what is everyone else doing? Well, no B2B or very few B2B founders want to create a mascot. Maybe you create a mascot, and maybe it works, right? If you have the right community. So I love that. Yeah.
Depends on the vibe, right? Because I think it's impossible to say like, yes, you have to do a rebrand, you have to create a mascot, or you have to do something else. But if you see that community is going to vibe with this, and I think it's always pretty obvious from the language that they use, from the communications that they enjoy, worth a trial.
I think it's also the team, right? You mentioned that they're super fun and like have this sort of attitude to the product that they're building. So it's sort of like a reflection of who they are. So if they would be more monolithic, like Chainlink is, for example, like you can't force, very buttoned up, like closed up people to have this mascot and adopt this kind of, like vibey personality. So I guess you kind of have to match it all together, and it came together nicely with this one. But given that Switchboard already had some sort of presence, audience, community that needed activation and like a clear messaging, when, at times a fractional CMO is sort of like, I don't know, like a band-aid on a leaking bucket of like, okay, we have the product, it's amazing, like we're going to start marketing now, we want a TG in 1 month, we have nothing, like no community, no audience, like no mindshare, nothing. What do you do then?
Honestly, I think it's a good time for an honest conversation in these cases, because a lot of things that I'm seeing in marketing, I think when you are managing the marketing function, a lot of it is actually not about marketing, but about management, and about like setting realistic expectations, having difficult conversations, and explaining that you want this, but this is unattainable, or we can do that, but this is going to backfire. Because let's say you can do a TG in a month, your token is going to flop after that. And also it depends on how much budget you have. Like you can just pump money into that and you can spend something super quickly. And we've probably seen projects that are doing that. But after the week after TGE, nobody remembers about them. And
Dump. That's how.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's always, what I noticed about founders, especially when they're building for a long time, they're really eager to push something out to the world. And sometimes they don't realize that this can actually hurt their business, because your token, even if your business is flourishing, if you're getting revenue in crypto, a lot is measured by your token, right? Like this is kind of your rating. You are rated by how well your token is performing. So if you do a TGE and the community is unhappy, you're just going to get flooded and you're not going to move anywhere. So I think in this case, to be honest, I'm saying that there should be a minimum of 3 months before the TGE, because I've never seen a project that was ready to the TGE from the onset. And usually I think it's funny because whenever you add the marketing function to any team, it uncovers so many issues. Because usually it like there are internal comms that are not working, founders that are not talking to each other, founders trying to pitch different perspectives to different team members. And usually
Can we talk about that for a second? Like how frustrating. I mean, it's so funny, right? Like we see all this marketing talk on crypto Twitter all the time, and it's so frustrating that marketing is always the afterthought. But I think we'd all agree here. It's like when we are talking about product market fit, you need product, a good product, and you need decent marketing, right? Like, and it's marketing so often is like for many teams that are so dev focused because we're such a technical industry, marketers always like the 30th, 40th hire. And it's exactly those problems you're talking about, Kseniia, which is they've done nothing internally. It's a mess. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, somebody told me recently the best phrase, like common sense is not common, because some things that for me, I'm just like, what do you mean your marketing team and your product team do not talk? Like, what do you mean you don't have a weekly call? For developers, they're like, why do you need a weekly call? Can you just not write something? Or they're dropping something and they're like, XYZ is launching. And I'm like, what's that? Like some context, some more info. And they're just like, can you not do that? Nope.
Honestly,
Not
it
really.
goes beyond Web3. Communication with the product team is a lot of the times like they live in their own world, and establishing a really clear like correct responsible individual for reporting or something is key. Or even I don't know, at the least set up a Slack automation for like reports for what's going on like this week and next week and so on. But yeah,
Nobody
that
has
is
time,
something.
right? That's another issue, especially around the launches, because I think a lot of founders try to do everything simultaneously. Like they would try to ship the testnet, the mainnet, onboard partners, and do a TGA at the same time, which essentially leads to the burnout. So I've seen it so many times when like the whole team is ill at some point, and I'm just like, guys, you're gonna die like, before you actually gonna launch something.
Launch day, no one showed up.
What's that meme like when the token launched and then they're like, "Oh, sorry, the dev died. We're gone. Like it's over. Thanks. Over. GG." Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, in terms of growth generally, like, maybe like the switchboard with established community and some of the other brands that you're working in that perhaps have smaller community, where are there, growth tactics or channels that you've seen work throughout? I mean, since all three of them are in Solana ecosystem, maybe there's something to Solana that, it's like the go-to.
I think not just for Solana, what I'm in general interested in is actually live streams, because testing them on my personal account and testing them versus Twitter Spaces, and the difference in viewership is crazy, and engagement difference is crazy that you get from those. I think in general, everything moves to the video direction now, because we're all busy, like we're all trying to be active, and you cannot read something for an hour, but at the same time, you can listen to a podcast for an hour. Or you can just have something on the background. So I'm trying to experiment with different forms of videos, like from long form content to short form content. And I think a live stream is something that's kind of untapped, because you can basically you get the direct benefit of it. You minimize the time that is needed from the founder or the team, because let's say if they have to write something for you, it's going to take them like days or weeks on end, because they have to sit down, they have to concentrate, allocate time to that. And a lot of founders are very passionate about what they're building. So you're tackling a lot of goals at the same time. Like you showcase the team, you do the founder-led comms, you create content, you can take it and like break into different smaller clips, and you can use it forever. Or like your content person, your social media person can just like script it and write content in different shapes and forms based on that.
So you're talking about them recording a video just for their team internally and then reusing that in content later on, or you're talking about like live streaming it on X directly?
I was talking about live streaming on X directly, and so another project I'm working with is Raiku, completely fresh. We launched marketing just a couple of weeks ago, and we actually tried our first stream, literally did like 20 minutes, and counting that we have less than 2,000 followers on our Twitter, we had 1,000 views, which I think is a lot.
Nice.
Yeah, and
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, and some of our investors reached out to us saying that they watched it, they loved it, they amplified it. So we're actually trying to make like a weekly cadence out of it. And finally, founders enjoyed it. Because I think it's like always tiny fruit. And it's like you do something and you get praised for it. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not do it weekly?
What was the stream about? Like, what did they talk about?
We started we've done a trial because basically for me, this was convincing the team that it works. And I was pushing hard for it for a couple of weeks. Then finally the founder was like, okay, let's do it. Because I think sometimes it's easier to say yes to me than explain why no. So we've done an intro to Raiku. We literally explained what we're building, why we're building it, what to expect from us going forwards. So super general, super casual, and just showcasing the team and having them speak on camera.
And that's the beauty of live streams. I mean, it's probably why we're live streaming right now at X, right? It's a very low lift. It can be really high impact. As we all know, live video is great. But I think it's particularly for especially in the community, it's such a low lift way for them to actually interact, see the faces, hear the people. Because I think especially with crypto, they're so, as you said, everyone they didn't show their face for such a long time, right? Like when you're talking in Discord or Telegram, there's nothing just like hearing people being able to react. So we love it. We love it.
I actually had the coolest thing when I was working with Premia because the whole team was anonymous, they were pseudonymous. So all of them had quite a large brand on Twitter and they were always posting something, always vocal, but none of them were on camera. And we actually used those AI generated mascots for team members, which was super cool. And the community knew founders by their mascot. And I think it's such a one for people who don't want to show their faces, but still you can even AI generate your voice, which I think it's the whole level of craziness. But if it works for some people, why not?
Hey, some people love it.
Because now you can create the whole video within by yourself. I don't know, using Midjourney and Kling and putting things together in CapCut, and it requires way less time. But you have to be able to kind of set the art direction. So it's more, less an executional thing and more how to orchestrate the whole thing to work. So you have to really have a vision and you have to know how to think. So I'm excited for more of this stuff also coming to Twitter. And speaking about live streams, this is an Avalanche ecosystem, by the way. The recent news I came across today, the Arena app, it's like a Twitch, decentralized Twitch kind of thing. But a new gateway for creators to earn tips sort of directly. The recent stream of somebody DJing got 6K in tips, which could be I'm trying to figure out how to
right now. Is that happening?
yeah. I'm thinking of if it's a big push and how to use that as a in some of the projects.
Could do some experimentation, by the way. I'm just thinking out loud.
Maybe. Hey, Riverside. What's up? Yeah. A bit of a kind of segue for the growth from the very beginning for prepping to TG and stuff like this. Obviously, Quest incentivized rewards is something that we are all familiar with. What do you think about this as a tactic? Because a lot of people are super against it. A lot of people are super pro Quest, and bots or no bots, it doesn't really matter. The traction is what matters. Where do you stand?
I would say I'm somewhere in between, because I see Quest as kind of an evolution of giveaways. And then if you remember back in the earlier days, there was Glim, or just like tweeting do XYZ will give you $100. I think quests were like extremely popular 2-3 years ago, and this was the it tactic to do. Now I see quests more as if you need a boost in numbers, or if you need to get more engagement, get more awareness, get more people create content around what you do. That's a great thing. But what I'm not on board with, especially for new projects, I'm always saying that you cannot start doing quests straight away, because basically it's not going to work. Like, no paid marketing or no like engagement marketing is going to work unless you actually have the foundation and unless you talk about the essence of what you do. Because let's say I think the best quests have this educational part, and also you give something to community, right? So if you want them to create art, you at least have to give them a brand book. Otherwise, it's going to be horrible. Like, it's going to be completely different. So I think if you want them to create content, the easiest thing to do is just to send them an article, send a blog post or like a Twitter thread, and tell them to use this as the foundation. Then it works. But I think there are a lot of marketers on CT that are completely dismissing quests, but I think it's a very like diplomatic and tactical move, because if you want to get listed on exchanges, you need to get certain metrics. And even if you were building for years and you were doing marketing since day one, the numbers are unrealistic, especially if you're going for tier one exchanges. So I think it's something that everyone understands, but at the same that it's like unattainable, and we're using some weird practices for that, but that's the name of the game.
Yeah,
I hate
it
this.
is. It's a reality.
Why is it?
Sorry.
Why is it a thing? Like, why do you have to have 100K followers to be listed? There might not be legit, you know, and there's no. I mean, most of them probably aren't.
I think we can afford to get a little spicy here. I mean, I think let's just call it what it is, right? Like, the centralized exchanges have too much power. They have arbitrary numbers that they want you to hit because it doesn't make any sense, but they want that, right? And so I think what Kseniia is getting at is, like, sometimes, you know, as much as you're trying to cultivate an organic community, you know, sometimes you just have to hit certain metrics, right? And to do that, there are tools, however unsavory they may or may not be. But also, it's never so cut and dry, right? Like, you could run we'll call them out, right? Like a Galaxy Quest or a Layer 3 activation or whatever else you want to create. There are going to be certainly a lot of, like, bots and scammers and token chasers. But sometimes, hopefully, God willing, like, you'll be, if you have a real community, I think at least those people hopefully will be able to participate and engage. And then it's really up to you as a project, right? You have to kind of filter out, who is real, who are the bots as best you can.
Yeah,
But it is incredibly hard.
You're casting a net, right?
But if you have a good community and strong fundamentals, you'll have less bad people hopefully participate.
Exactly. You will have a higher percentage that actually stays with you, at least at the time you do the TG, or like hopefully sometime after. But then, like, I don't know about you guys, but I was doing a lot of airdrops. And I think like last year around like January, February. And a lot of projects were doing really cool quests. Like, let's say Linear Park, 6 weeks. I was obsessed with it. Like, every single week I was doing tasks. And I think it also depends what type of a project you have. Because I think if you have an ecosystem, it's a great way to activate your ecosystem partners, because they were doing custom layer 3 quests. They added, they split it into different weeks, had an educational block, like explaining what the project does, had like a video that they showcased how everything works. And then you actually had to go and make some actions on the apps that are building on the linear network. I'm not sure.
Chain actions. Yeah.
Yeah, like, let's say I'm not into gaming, I'm not into socialifying crypto, I would never try those apps otherwise. But now, like, I know it's that. Some of them made sense to me, and I enjoyed some of them.
You say it's such a...
Any of them? He doesn't want to admit. Do you use any now? Or do you follow any, like...
No,
Maybe she's just not the right target demo, right?
no,
It's
I'm
not
not,
her.
because I'm not a gamer, and they had a lot of games there. But it's like from marketing perspective, it was interesting for me to see like at what stage is crypto gaming at, like what is happening with AI, with SocialFi, what you can do. A lot of things were annoying from the user perspective, because I think especially when you're in crypto for a while and you cannot make a transaction in the app, I'm just like anxiety.
Yeah, that's the
Um,
user experience.
Well, I want to quickly, and by the way, we're coming up soon on time, so I think we only have time for a couple more questions. But I do want to ask this because it's something internally we've been doing a lot of stuff on and thinking a lot about, and we've been having conversations with other marketers, which is AI, right? Like, how are you using it within your stack as a marketer? What's your do you have a hot take? I don't know, just curious, like what kind of tooling you're using. Because let's be honest, everyone is using it. And frankly, if you're not, you're kind of behind the wheel, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, what's your stack?
I think I'm kind of basic in my AI stack, to be honest.
Yeah.
I've been saying this for weeks that I have to like actually do a test drive and see what
Yeah.
I can integrate. Um, but I'm definitely using Claude and ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've been even testing it to like write marketing strategies.
Yeah.
It's like it takes a lot of crunching, and it takes a lot of like, no, this doesn't work because the budget is not infinite. Or like do this
Yeah.
$5 in 1 month. So something along these lines. But I think what I figured, I think if your project has a lot of information about it, AI is super helpful because you can basically like create content around it. You can use it for like docs, for internal communications, for strategies, and so on. If you're starting fresh, uh, that's very difficult because again, it
Yeah.
take information from somewhere.
It needs context. If it doesn't have context, where do you start, right? You gotta like create it from scratch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite interesting. It's something we're thinking a lot about. Maybe it's something we should pick offline, actually, because I would love to pick your brain on some of the stuff we're cooking up.
Yeah, I would love to learn what you're using.
Yeah. Well, my stack is pretty basic and simple as well. So like ChatGPT, Claude, Grok. But I think we're also building stuff, right? And we're really thinking about as a marketing network and as a DAO, like how can we build tools that 10x performance for our own internal marketers? Because I think our hot take, and that's alpha again for anyone listening, because we're not really talking too much about it. But I guess the big thing here is, what we're seeing. It's so funny. Like I think a year ago, I was like, "Oh, that's such a chat GPT record, blah blah blah." But
Yeah,
actually, that is what is valuable because the LLMs are just commoditized, right? Like everyone's just switching out models. You're like, "I want Claude, I want GPT, I want Grok, I want Llama, DeepSeek, blah 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 blah." But it's really like, what can you build on top? What's the application layer? And then I think I just said this like an hour ago on an internal call. It's like context is the secret sauce. It's the moat. It's the thing that like, if you have that, you can connect that to any model and then create that custom workflow that hopefully is your talking about, right? Like writing marketing strategies. You should have ideally a repository marketing strategies or that you've already done that you can feed it against and just continue to get smarter. So I think that's where the future is. And yeah, I don't know. It's something that's very top of mind. So would love to talk to you about it sometime.
I love to use it when I get stuck. When I
Yeah.
think we will have the days when it's just like you're staring at the screen and you're like,
Yeah.
don't understand where to start. I think it's a good thing to move the needle, but I wouldn't substitute AI.
No.
Like I would substitute people for AI. Even like we just recently had this conversation with one of my teams, and they were like, let's not hire the content writer. And it's a completely fresh project, like not even out of stealth. Like,
Yeah.
let's do everything through AI. But then somebody actually has to write prompts, somebody has to feed information to it, and somebody has to edit it.
And
Because
you have to, it's what we call human in the loop. I'll be honest. Like, we have a lot of our content, like, that's assisted by AI. That's the same thing. You have to have an editor at the end to actually go through, make sure it's quality, do all the proof editing. But there's still pro in that you can output about 10x the content, but now you just have to like edit the content, review the content.
Takes time. Takes
It takes
time and
time.
human brain, right? Because you want to
Yeah.
like, an individual touch on it.
Yeah, exactly.
It also evolves all the time. Like, the new Gemini model, the 2.5 experimental, was launched like when, ChatGPT launched their image thing, and the Ghiblis took over Twitter. So nobody kind of noticed that. But when I think about strategy, I just use sort of the Perplexity, Gemini, and DeepSeek all together to mesh and, kind of give a good sample of what the space looks like, and then sort of go from there. It's the same kind of problem as staring into the black screen, but generally just helps, have a better context from the get-go. Like research in general, something that's super, that takes a lot of time, just slashes it in half, or if not more. Rapid fire round, since we have like 5 minutes left. Okay, so first one would be the most underrated tech in Web3 marketing right now. I think you answered it before, though.
Yeah, streams and video, especially
Yeah.
short video.
I knew it. As I was saying it, I already knew what are you gonna say. Okay, next one is the worst advice that you have seen in marketing recently.
Yeah, actually, in addition to like doing everything through AI, probably just like getting just one person to run the community and actually like piling all the other marketing tasks on him.
It's sad that it still happens.
All the time.
Like, community managers are calling for that, because every time I post something from the perspective of like, you have to hire a head of marketing, I have so much backlash of like content writers and social media managers. And I'm like, you don't know what you're getting yourself into. Like, you really don't want this in your life. Just,
Like, just watch out. Be careful what you wish for.
exactly.
Okay, next one is what brands or projects you think are killing it right now in marketing or content?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna be biased because I'm more into B2B now. Definitely Double Zero. Everyone talks about Double Zero. Great content strategy. Think interesting spin on the brand because it's very tailored and polished, but at the same time it has a distinctive brand. Awesome founder-led comms. Fogo Chain as well. They have a lot of success now in terms of marketing as well. Also B2B, but more like a DGen and community spin on it. And great content as well. Like good explanations.
That's deep.
Yeah,
just like wrapping up. Yeah.
Someone prepared for the questions. That's what it is.
Heard before.
Okay, and the last one. Looking back, what's your biggest learning as a Web3 marketer?
Actually, I think it's not in terms of marketing, it's in terms of human psychology. And this is what I learned recently. Basically, I learned that non-technical people and technical people view the world from a completely different lens. And when I'm saying something that makes total sense for me and I don't have to explain it, this is what I really have to explain. So that's why I started like being more direct in communications, documenting everything, explaining everything 100 times, even if it's something like check the article by XYZ date, I will explain why and like what consequences it's going to trigger. Because I think it's just like marketing is always, it's kind of plugged in between all other business functions, and you have to know how to interact with all of them. And like every person has their own task, their own goals, and they usually do not understand like what you do in marketing. So you have to explain them why you're being annoying to them.
I mean, you can't just tweet jams and that's it.
Jam.
You can. You need to be like, yeah, but I think the funniest thing that I had a project years ago and the founder was not responding to me for a month. I'm not even kidding. Like zero response, or saying something like, I'm so sorry, I'm very busy now. And I'm like, okay. And a month later, he also like refused to connect me to anyone from the team. And a month later, he told me that unfortunately we have to terminate the contract because he thought that marketing works differently.
You didn't respond to any of the messages. What do you mean?
What the hell?
Yeah, I was like, that's true. It's not magic. It's like,
People are
I
weird.
work with people. Yeah.
Better off. So sorry that happened. Tragic. Hey,
Awesome. That's a
listen,
wrap then.
yeah, well, I guess we always like to end on one last thing, which I guess is Kseniia. What should people be looking out for? Are there any interesting things you think are coming up that you want to kind of sneak peek to the world? And then also, how can people find you? I think they already have your Twitter profile on the live stream, and we'll have it in the podcast as well. But if there's any place you want to direct people to, some kind of call to action, this is your spot. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Twitter always works. I'm recently deep down the rabbit hole and like tweeting sometimes too much. So yeah, you can always reach out on Twitter. In terms of things to look out for, I think in terms of my projects, a lot is coming soon. I have a lot of milestone events, so watch that space, not financial advice. In terms of me personally, I think, yeah, I'm just deepening the direction of like fractional CMO, and I'm trying to kind of share more about my journey and like share more about my previous experiences in marketing, and especially in terms of some things that are negative. Because let's see, I think like it's a great thing that now it's kind of a marketing uprising because marketers are chatting to each other. We'll have the same issues, and sometimes it's tough, and sometimes you think that something is wrong with you if, like, let's say you were fired or you were laid off. And I heard from a lot of people that they are ashamed to share this. Why? I think in crypto, it's like it's a normal thing that you work somewhere for a month and then something happens. So I'm trying to be more like raw in terms of the experiences that I had before and the learnings that I got from them.
We should set up like a Crypto Marketers Anonymous, just giving a free
Yeah,
advice, you know?
yeah. I had an idea for a podcast that would make me unhireable and unmarriable.
Sounds fun. That just sounds like you can do it. I
Someday.
don't know.
Sounds like it will stand out.
It'll be different. That's
Yeah.
for sure. Beautiful. Well, listen, Kseniia, this was really great. So appreciate you hopping on, talking about your experiences. I think we should definitely keep in touch. Let's see what kind of magic we can all cook up together. And I'm very excited for what's coming next. So, thank you so much.
Likewise. Thank you so much, guys. It was fun.
Thank you.
Likewise. Talk to you soon. See you
See you
online.
online.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye.